Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My three guests today are each technology and digital executives from Johnson Controls, a company that enhances the intelligence of buildings to the tune of nearly $30 billion in annual revenue. Mike Ellis is the company's Chief Customer and Digital Officer. Diane Schwarz is the company's Chief Information Officer. And Vijay Sankaran is the company's Chief Technology Officer. I'm interested in understanding how these executives and their roles fit together, how digital and technology innovation is shaping a 136-year-old company, and what the pandemic has taught them about the future of office buildings and of work itself, plus so much more. Well, Mike Ellis, Diane Schwarz, Vijay Sankaran, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with all three of you today. Let me begin with you, Mike, if you don't mind. You're the only of the three, despite the fact that I've had the pleasure of interviewing each of you, the only one that I've interviewed in your current role as the longest tenured of the three of you, having begun in roughly October of 19, if I recall correctly. You were the Chief Customer and Digital Officer of Johnson Controls. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment and describe your purview in that role and what it entails, please.
Sure. Thanks, Peter, and a pleasure to be here. So it's somewhat of a unique title, Chief Customer and Digital Officer, and there's a reason behind it. One is we not only as a company are transforming how we think about digital, how it infuses everything that we're doing, our strategy, how we start to use technology within all of our core products, but very importantly, what's the impact on the customer, and how do we engage with customers to understand what's most important to them. How do we deliver against that goal? How do we do it in partnership with them? And in many ways, co-innovation and framing up the goals and the visions of what really can make a difference for them. And so that's kind of how those titles come together. I've been responsible at the firm for digital innovation and our strategy around how we start to actually use technology and digital within our product offerings. And how we deliver innovation in that same vein, if you will, working very closely in partnerships with my compatriots that you're also interviewing, Diane and Vijay. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also within my purview is enterprise marketing. So all of the marketing function and the CMO responsibilities reporting up through me, as well as enterprise strategy. So strategy for the corporate, for the firm. And then I also have responsibility for what I would call really delivering with game-changing lighthouse clients and customers out in the field, new digital solutions and capabilities in that partnership I talked about a minute ago.
That's a great overview and quite a broad purview as well, Mike. I appreciate you covering each of those. Diane, let me turn to you as the second longest tenured among the three of you. You joined in roughly August of 2020, if I recall correctly, as the Chief Information Officer. You're not the first person to hold that title in the organization, but talk a bit about your responsibilities as CIO, if you would.
Sure. So in some respects, there's the traditional purview in terms of infrastructure and ERP and applications and websites and everything that comes with the CIO title. When I think about how I navigate it with my peers, and Mike and I sat down and talked about this shortly after I joined. If you think of a Venn diagram, and we'll think about employees, customers, and products. And I'll only talk about 2/3 of the Venn diagram because we'll let Vijay finish off those pieces, is that I own the employee experience, how our employee operates with all of our applications, how they get the day-to-day job done. And Mike owns the customer's experience with our products. But then when you have the overlap of the Venn diagram, as the customers interact with portals, billing, how to schedule a ticket for field service, that's where then it goes back into the CIO responsibilities. So it's not, black and white to say that everything the customer interacts with in Johnson Controls is under Mike's umbrella. We have to navigate what really is the product experience versus the application experience from kind of that traditional perspective.
Thank you so much, Diane. Great description, and I appreciate your differentiating between those areas of responsibility. Well, as you suggested, why don't we turn to Vijay? the Chief Technology Officer of the organization. Vijay, talk about where you fit into to this picture, if you would, and again, your purview, if you would.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. It's fantastic to be here and also be working with two great leaders like Mike and Diane to kind of advance the digital capabilities in the company. When you think about the heuristic that Diane just shared around the Venn diagram, I would say I represent the product piece. And when we think about product, it's really the game-changing part of what's going on in our industry right now is the software part of that product. And so, from an agile parlance, I think about a very simple analogy in the sense that, there's two pieces, build the right thing and building the thing right. And, my focus is all around building the thing right and really building out a world-class digital software engineering organization at Johnson Controls, and really focusing around the emerging space of edge IoT software, how that is integrated into a standardized software and data platform, which is OpenBlue. How do we create the set of experiences on top of OpenBlue that allow our customers to have outcomes like energy efficiency, sustainability, managing their spaces, smart buildings, and then applying all the AI and ML to really be able to generate those insights and creating that closed loop so that we fully get to the smart autonomous building. So we're building the software and all the connectors and the data structures and the AI models in my new organization to support that, and work very closely with Mike around the customer needs and experiences, and very closely with Diane's organization around the broader ecosystem of service and support and infrastructure and cybersecurity to make sure that the pieces that are the overlap in that Venn diagram come together seamlessly.
And as this is a new organization or new role, at least, Vijay, how have you built up the team? How much of it is drawing in folks from other teams versus building it anew?
Yeah, so it's come together really nicely. So, if you think about where Johnson Controls was circa 6 months ago, Mike had the engineering resources for OpenBlue as part of his team. And another colleague of ours, Jeff Williams, had engineering resources sort of spread all across his broader product development and engineering organization in different product business units like intrusion, controls, fire detection, access control, and video surveillance. You could consider these all sort of edge capabilities that were independently sort of stovepiped and kind of doing their whole thing. So, Mike working with George, and others, really brought together the strategy that if we can get one organization where all of these, edge software engineering capabilities are brought together along with the integrated OpenBlue platform, that's where the magic really happens and can be a key strategic differentiator for the company, because now we don't have these stovepipe solutions, but we have one holistic solution that integrates all of these into one unified software platform. And so we brought in the engineering resources from the global products organization. And I got to say, it's gone smashingly well, just in terms of, being able to exploit synergies, or even the first 90 days, people working together, people who had never seen synergies in the past. And now we're forming sort of one holistic agile organization, leveraging a safe agile approach to, bring more speed to market and more alignment, with the strategic vision of the company.
That's great. I appreciate that overview. Diane, let me turn back to you, if I may, and talk a bit about, if you would, how the relationship between the three of you is governed. How regularly do you all get in touch, either formally or informally? You did a nice job, and Vijay continued in talking about the different areas that you cover and how one sort of bleeds into the next and so on. But needless to say, there's a lot of information that needs to flow between each of you as to what you're doing and how you can support each other that I'm hearing through those descriptions. Can you talk a little bit about the governance of this relationship?
Sure. There's certainly an informal aspect and a more formal aspect. Informally, we talk all the time. So before Vijay was here, Mike and I would refer to each other as work siblings. So Vijay, I guess you're now another work sibling. Right? Where it's like, hey, do you have this? Do you have that? So that there's no contention. We absolutely get that we need to work productively on figuring out the handoffs and providing clarity to our teams because it's new. Our company is going through a huge transformational shift to become digital to the core. So the kinds of problems that we're solving are new to the organization. But let me just give an example of a more formal aspect. So when it comes to cybersecurity, we have what we'll call enterprise cybersecurity, and we have product cybersecurity. The mitigations that you have, the challenges are very different. So we have two different cybersecurity steercos on those two topics, but I attend the product one and my enterprise CISO attends the product one. And likewise, Vijay and his product CISO attend mine so that we are absolutely uniform in our decisions, our approach, our governance, but that we recognize and are clear that we don't all do everything. We call it a racy, call it objectives to say, I have this, you have that.
That's really great. Mike, as the one person who was involved, presumably in the hiring of the other two on the call here, and perhaps was therefore also involved in thinking about how the different parts and pieces work together. First of all, I'd actually love your perspective on what it says about Johnson Controls that there is so much technology talent. This people here who've been CIOs, CDOs, heads of innovation at major corporations before joining this one, all at the top of this company. Talk a bit about, and as certainly also as the person who runs strategy for the organization, about the strategic nature of technology and digital within JCI.
Sure. No, happy to, Peter. And regarding your last question to Diane on governance between the three of us, it's a free-for-all. I'm kidding. Little humor. We are the best of partners and pals in making it all come together. And we're having, I'll be honest with you, we're having so much fun. It's just extraordinary. So, firstly, on the three of us working together, I am so proud to and thrilled to be even a partner with these two rock stars. And both of them have extraordinary backgrounds. But beyond that, and I think Vijay said it, what we're doing at the company, actually Diane as well, what we're doing at the company is transforming it. And we have a history, 130-year-old company. We have a history of technology innovation. We have a history of software and hardware and technology and even AI and other capabilities. Putting that together in a uniform approach that a customer can digest and actually utilize to get customer outcomes, be it energy, sustainability, whatever those amazing things are that they're asking for, that we're helping them on the journey for, is our journey together, the three of us. And what we did with Vijay's role and the CTO role is so extraordinary. And I would challenge anyone, and I'm sure there's some out there, but I would challenge anyone in a multi-billion-dollar industrial technology firm to point at another company that has put all of software engineering under one individual for every business unit across every part of the company. It's extraordinary. And of course, what you come out of that with is the ability to execute not only that vision, but a unified purpose, a unified approach about delivering those outcomes and capabilities and value to our customer base that we want to, because we've got, one leader that is leading that way around what that execution engine might look like to really get us there at a technology speed, by the way, not at an industrial speed, but at a software company speed, which we're so excited about. And Diane, our partner on the internal, but also customer-facing systems like billings and support platforms and service platforms and all of those elements. Diane's team touches our customers in a very, very deep and rich way. and her partnership with all of those platforms and systems intertwined with how we actually infuse technology at the customer itself, in the buildings, in the technology that the people carry around with them in mobile platforms, et cetera, is inherent in realizing that vision. So those three platforms coming together and really making sense. So anyway, it's an amazing journey.
I'd like to stay with you for a moment longer, Mike. As you are the one who owns the customer relationship, what a remarkable year and a half it has been for companies around the world, and obviously the way in which work is done, how people anticipate returning to offices or not, as the case may be. And I'm curious, as somebody who does speak with so many leaders of businesses and who works on obviously on a whole range of topics related to the buildings in which they work as well. What are some of the top line things that you're hearing these days in terms of what the future of work might look like, recognizing, of course, that there are a whole range of flavors associated with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And certainly we're talking about it every day, almost every hour of what it looks like and helping our customers on that. We're hearing many of them that they believe in the need for people to be in person, especially for certain roles and jobs and capabilities to collaborate in a way that is personal. And certainly digital platforms that allow us to engage are helpful as well. And there are certain populations that can work remotely. I think that the technology that we're delivering as a company around making those places and spaces more healthy and resilient, and also the experience of being in that building more resilient and interesting and exciting. And then thirdly, the third leg on that stool is, and do so with a real mind's eye on sustainability and energy is top of mind these days. So how could I increase the healthiness of the spaces that people are coming into? How do I make their experience more interesting and exciting so they do want to be in person to collaborate? And thirdly, how do I make sure that I'm actually becoming more zero carbon neutral or giving back in that frame? And we're hearing those three elements every single day from every single customer about how we approach this. And especially on the energy side of this, we hear from many CEOs, there are many ways of getting at zero carbon footprint. And some of them involve, credits and all the other things. Most of the CEOs, though, are asking, how do I really activate it? How do I make it sticky, reoccurring, and part of my engine of running my company, that I become, zero carbon footprint and do that? And so that's a really core focal point as we go through this journey. How do we help them really see that journey through and make it real?
That's great. I appreciate that. Vijay, I'm hearing echoes in what Mike just said with what you were describing before, also with regard to OpenBlue, your focus on energy efficiency, smart buildings, the use of AI, ML for greater insight, and so on. I'm curious now, what are you seeing? You joined in May of this year. So in the interim, what have you learned as a result of your interactions and the growth of the OpenBlue platform in a similar vein to what Mike was alluding to?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is, I think we're in a very unique place and time in terms of where we're positioned to add value with our software and solutions, in the sense that, the macro level societal themes of decarbonization, smarter intelligence about your campuses and buildings, healthy spaces, all of those things are sort of, I would say, hypercharged right now, just based upon coming out of COVID, kind of what's going on at a macro global level, just in terms of, different trends with, sustainability and also the maturity of technologies at the edge. And so, I feel like, number one, the opportunity is perfect for Johnson Controls to really seize this marketplace and at the same time provide major societal value. That's what is so exciting for me at the end of the day about both the purpose as well as the opportunity in terms of what Johnson Controls can offer companies around the world. The second thing I would say is what's exciting to me is that our breadth of acquisitions that we've made over the years across the building management landscape is second to none. So, that's a key strategic advantage. I don't know if we were deliberate about it when we made those acquisitions, but, having all of those assets around cameras and surveillance and access controls and building controls and intrusion and fire all across the portfolio, we basically have like a data generating machine, about the buildings that we're in. So that's a huge strategic asset as you think about things going forward. And now with OpenBlue providing sort of the unifying platform for all of that data collection across the enterprise, we have a key strategic asset that I believe is much more holistic than any of our competitors' offerings, just due to the nature of the much more narrow nature of their businesses. We're much more holistic. The third thing, I think we're seeing is that customers are much more about solutions than the software. And the software is all about enabling different solutions, like our net zero as a service solution that really helps companies decarbonize, or a solution that we're working on around smart hospitals, or energy efficiency solutions in Asia Pacific. So I think our job, Mike and mine and our teams, is to really put together that, almost that solution use case that allows us to go to market that much more quickly, integrating the software aspects with the customer pain points to create a much more holistic and seamless solution experience.
Thanks for that overview. Diane, as the member of the team that focuses a lot on employee experience, I'm curious how you draw from some of what you know or learn about customer experience beyond the company back into how you and your team enable employee experience within JCI. So I guess there are two parts to that: the how you formulate your plans internally, but also draw lessons from the broader landscape to inform that decision as well.
Sure. So I'm going to answer the question in two ways. It's a fact that people are going back to buildings. It's also a fact that some people are not. So how do you create an inclusive experience for everyone, regardless of where they are? So my message is see faces, hear voices. How can you create something that is a level playing field so that we continue to have everyone represented who should be represented, and give them a voice, and never, ever, ever go back to the old world where you had some people in a room and everyone else on a phone, and that was their experience. So really trying to take the great lessons that we've all learned in the last year and a half and continue that operating model and those behaviors, even for those that might be going back to an office, and have them never forget those behaviors. But the other piece that I wanted to highlight, and it goes to that digital journey that we're going on, and how you're really infusing the products or the solutions that we bring to market, and how now you have CIOs and CISOs who care about these products. And so I see that myself, my team, we're now more involved even in the commercial aspects of how we sell and solution to the marketplace. And so George Oliver, our CEO, wants all of us to be commercially minded and be account sponsors and be involved in selling. And I think that's a fabulous message for everyone in my organization, who in the past, you might have kind of kept them locked in a room. And that's not the case anymore. We're forefront. because it's our peers in the marketplace who are now also involved in decisions on our products.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that overview as well, and how that's the experience of the past 18 months are informing the way in which you foresee things going in the future as well. I'm curious, actually, where do things stand now? Are you, what sort of a strategy are you looking to pursue? It sounds like a hybrid strategy of sorts, and ensuring that people are, when they're coming together, they're productive and working together, but also as people are working virtually, they have a means of connecting in a meaningful way, or more meaningful than perhaps in the past. Is that a fair synopsis?
Absolutely. But we have always been a global company, and we always had meetings where there was somebody not in the room. I think that this has just really elevated the awareness that we needed to improve the experience of all of those participants.
Makes sense. Well, good. I would love to maybe, Mike, I'll turn to you. As you look to the future, and especially again as somebody who oversees strategy for the entire firm, to talk a little bit about what are some of the things that excite you as you contemplate leveraging technology and digital as a means of impacting the business for the future. What are some of the aspects of the corporate strategy that continue to underscore meaningful opportunities leveraging technology and digital?
Sure. Thanks, Peter. A couple of things. Number one, the whole world, and we've been hearing this for years, but in the building space, it's moved a little slower. The whole world is becoming connected, right? And so in our case, our ability to start to really, as Vijay said, reap the benefits and create insights of how you actually operate a building in a different way, so that those experiences, that healthiness, and that sustainability are all front of mind in terms of how you execute. Buildings, much like automobiles years ago, were, they're a set of silos of technologies, of core platforms, fire, security, and all those types of things. When you start to bring those together, the insights that you can start to garner are pretty extraordinary. And beyond that, the impact that you can have on how the building's used, how people are using it, and how they're experiencing it are totally changed and different. So I'm really, really excited about what that means, because with that connection comes also another thing Vijay mentioned, how you start to connect the dots around intelligence. And how do you serve the people in that building in a different way? It's a little more, the word used many times these days with automobiles, autonomous. How do you make that building a little more self-healing and self-learning around how to fix itself and how to approach that? And how do you make service and service technology even more efficient about making sure that that building's operating at the best of capabilities and the people are reaping the best of benefits out of that? So AI, machine learning, everything being connected, common open platform-based capabilities that allow that connection to happen. And then, as Diane talked about, doing so in a secure way. So how do you start to create a fabric where, in this OT environment of big core industrial platforms, how do you start to really make that fabric a little more secure and protective of, again, those buildings, the infrastructure itself, and the people in those buildings? And so I'm pretty excited about all of that journey. Lastly, maybe around Johnson Controls itself, we're the largest company in this industry sector around buildings, technology, and capabilities. We, with the addition of Diane and Vijay and our strong push across our whole executive team and George Oliver, our CEO, we are reaping very fast innovation cycles within the company and really delivering against that vision in a really unique, what I would call software technology kind of profile versus, more of an industrial. And with that comes, I think, some really great opportunities around leading the industry around what that means for the entire building life cycle and for our three core elements that we focus on: people, places, and planet. So really exciting times.
Mike, I'd like to add on to what excites you about the company. So as I talked about with my responsibilities of the employee experience, everything that we do to transform our solutions and our product sets in the marketplace is an opportunity for all of our employees. When I talk about being digital to the core, this is really transforming the professional lives of all 100,000 employees we have. It's they think about solutions in the marketplace. They then are improving how they operate and what their future potential is as an employee and as a professional.
Certainly sounds like it. Well, Mike Ellis, Diane Schwarz, Vijay Sankaran, thank you all each for joining me today and sharing a bit about each of the areas that you are driving forward in quite an interesting time for the company. It's been great to speak with you all.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.